Hey everyone. So, this is something I've been thinking about for some time, and it kind of annoys me about the Autodesk cloud tools, and specifically BIM360 and ACC, that there isn't a free tier that I'm aware of, and if it is, it's hidden somewhere. I do know for like startups and stuff, I think you can get like development versions of things, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. But I think I'm more speaking about people personally using it in their free time to explore cool things, to test different things, similar to what I do on this channel where I find a cool thing and then I share it. And there's just I think it's important to lower the barrier for tools, to allow people to engage with them, create things. That there's so much benefit to that. And as an example, like here's a list of tools that have free tiers. Now, I haven't tested all of these, but I did find, like, I just Googled and I was like, does it have a free tier? And if it does, I added it to this list. This isn't everything. One tool I did specifically use is Microsoft Azure, and within that, I use the IoT Hub. And because it had a free tier, I was able to use that tool, build knowledge, prove a POC, learn more about the process to become a better consultant, understand the environment and what the needs are, because what we were doing is we were pulling data from devices, pushing it into the IoT Hub, and then connecting that into Autodesk Tandem. And so it gave us more understanding of like the digital twin concept, and it was all because that tool had a free tier. It doesn't mean like that's the only reason I made that decision, but it definitely makes it more accessible. I have a bunch of stuff here. I won't go through all of this. I kind of just threw rough notes together, mostly because I'm just frustrated. I think there's a huge benefit in opening ACC and BIM360 to people to explore, have a free tier so they can mess around with it. That's really hard to do in a company because unlike Revit, where a lot of people do explore that when they have that tool, BIM360 and ACC are a lot harder to do because usually you have access to it through an active project and you don't necessarily want to mess around with that. And if you want to build custom applications with their APIs, it's hard to trust somebody that's just experimenting, that doesn't know how to work in that environment, to have admin rights and to be able to do that. And there's good reason behind that. And that brings up a different point that frustrates me, is that there isn't a development environment that they give you with your regular hub. So you could do development in a development hub and then port it over into your production hub when you're ready. That ability to explore and engage with the tools is really beneficial. And now it's just narrowed, like you just have a small pool of people that can actually interact with it and build the skills that are valuable to so many firms that are using that platform. These are some tools that offer a free tier, so this isn't a weird thing. A lot of companies do this. Now, I want to mention that there is a 30-day trial, but I just don't think that's enough to really get a lot done. And I have a list here of just some cons to not having a free tier. So, limited user adoption, community engagement, so just reduced community in general, because you're just not going to have as many people doing things and sharing stuff. Slower feedback. A good example of that is Tandem, which is an Autodesk product. Like when we created that workflow with Azure IoT Hub, there was some documentation on it, but it wasn't that great, and it was missing some steps. There was some nuance to some of the platforms, and we were able to figure it out, do some testing, worked with Autodesk, did some troubleshooting. But because we were able to explore that feedback got back to them, right? And then they're able to improve their product or their documentation. And when you only have a handful of companies using this tool and then a handful of people within those companies actually able to work with the different APIs and tools, you're just not going to get as much feedback. Naturally, less innovation because there's just going to be less people experimenting in those environments. And then, like I mentioned, like the talent pool, you're just not going to have that. I know Dynamo's not like Dynamo for Revit is not a free tool, but it is more accessible. And there's an amazing community behind it that are creating cool things and sharing that. And that gets other people excited about it. And it's a little bit easier if you are going to school to get access to that tool. I mean, that's kind of a different point. I do wish there was like free versions of things for people that can't, afford going to a school or just can't make that happen, that they still have the ability to explore tools, to build those skills, and then go to a firm and apply, and say, hey, I've got these skills because I've got some personal projects. You just don't see that, I think, as often in AEC. Now, there's some wonderful open source tools that allow you to do that, but at least in North America, where we primarily use Revit, that's just not as easy unless you can cram everything you need to know in 30 days. Like the firm I work for, we hire people that are brand new to the industry, which isn't like a unique thing. A lot of companies do that, but we also hire people that are right out of high school that don't have any skills, and we help develop them. But there's people that don't have the ability, or there's a lot of firms that just don't do that, and there's a lot of people that don't have the ability to go to school so that they can get an educational license to use these tools. And when there's a requirement for BIM 360, it would be cool to have a free tier so that you could say, maybe you work at a firm that doesn't have that BIM 360. Well, then you can develop that skill. You could even build a business case for it, present it at your current company so that you do start using it. But maybe you want to transition to another company that is using that. Well, how do you gain that skill? I mean, with any job out there, there's always nuance. There's always, you don't have to know all the skills. But if you had the ability and the tool was there, then you could learn it. And then you could go to that more prepared and improve your chances of getting that position. This is something I just mentioned. I don't think it's that important just because of the aspects of I guess this is less important for companies that are doing development, because I do think they have like a development tier thing that's out there. Not 100% sure on that. I think like my comments here, thinking back through it, it's more related to firms that are adopting this tool in an actual design production environment or like a construction environment. So you can mitigate risk by adopting a free tier, getting familiar with it, understanding what the ROI is, what the investment's going to be to develop everything, what's the technical debt, and then when you scale up, you get more projects in it, then you increase your tiers to where they're going to be paid or whatever. So, and that's kind of what I'm saying here with cost efficient scaling, growth alignment, and then the risk mitigation part is like, well, we can try this, make sure we get everything in order. We understand what the ROI is. Are there KPIs we can track? Are there, what's their training needs? Is there going to be major process changes to our existing workflows? Stuff like that. And with a free tier, you can explore that in a very controlled, like just limited aspect or whatever, like you could have one project in there and then try it out, document it, and see how it goes. I don't have much else to say here. I really wish they would open it up, and I'm kind of just saying this and mentioning these things to start a discussion. None of this is like, the facts. There may be nuance that I'm unaware of on why decisions like that are made, but I just think like if you give people the ability to explore and experiment, there's just nothing but benefits there, because people will share those things. It'll get other people excited. You'll build more trust with the tools. And then we can explore and have better conversations around the needs there, because I have more of an opportunity to actually use the tool and explore some of the different aspects of it. I didn't mention this, but I did mention like a development hub and stuff, but like, in firms that do have this tool, the people that are developing custom integrations, there's just not a lot of people that are doing that, mostly because like I'm in a position where I usually have those rights where I can experiment with that stuff, but it's not open to most people, and that's because it is a production environment. There's a lot of risk there if you develop like things to experiment with, and then you accidentally delete 20 projects or 100 projects off your hub. So there is risk. That's where I think a development hub would be very beneficial, at least for firms that are paying for the tool already. Then they can get more people kind of engaged with it, testing different things. I think just in general it's good, because if you have a testing environment You can test new solutions. Maybe you have a new API integration that automatically creates BIM 360 projects or modifies a bunch of them. You can test it all in there for a month or whatever, verify everything works, and then roll it over into your production environment. That's a small thing, but I just feel like that would be so valuable to have is a separate environment. And I could be missing something, but I have brought this up with Autodesk and others. I don't think it's something that's available now, but that would be incredibly nice because it's very, like, you can create like fake test projects in your production environment, but when you've got lots of people in there actively working, I don't know, just to me it can get messy. So, and then that could at least make it a little bit more accessible for also the people that want to experiment with it, that don't necessarily have the skills to work with that kind of environment with those different APIs. That still doesn't address the issue, which is like people that don't work at those firms or don't go to school, even if they did go to school, I don't know if they actually have an educational license for BIM 360 and ACC. But if they did, it still is like, well, what about the folks that are working or not working but want to develop that skill and don't have the means to go to like a university? Anyways, these are just some thoughts. That's it. And I did want to mention one last thing as another option. So Speckle is a really cool tool. Now, it doesn't do like all the things that BIM 360 does, but I do think it is a cool cloud solution that's out there that you can self-host if you want. It's open, so you can build a lot of your own integrations, which I think is incredibly powerful. It doesn't do all the things that BIM 360 has with like their design collaboration piece and sharing Revit models and all of that, or sharing like live Revit models and linking them together. Like you can do that in the BIM 360 ACC environment. And then they have some other cool features, but Speckle, I feel like for interoperability and sharing data between different formats or even between same formats for projects can be really powerful. And I'm definitely watching that to see how it evolves. But that is one cool way. If you don't have the means to get access to BIM 360, Speckle could be a cool way to start working with those cloud environments and develop the skills that are necessary there, and that could easily translate to something like BIM 360 and working with the different APIs on Autodesk platform. So, anyways, I'd love to hear your feedback on this. It is something that annoys me that more people can't experiment with these things because there's just so many cool things in there. And at least for like in North America, where primarily we're using Autodesk stuff, there's a lot of value for anybody to develop those skills. So hopefully it changes in the future. But anyways, just that's all I've got, and hopefully you liked it, and I will share this Notion page with you in the description below. So anyways, thanks, and I will see you next time.